All right, look, I just want everybody to know I'm still fed up with this Watergate orgy, with this deep throat orgy. But I'm going to violate one of my own rules. Even though I'm fed up with it, we're going to keep talking about it because there are still points to be made about it. I think I'm fed up because I'm seeing a bunch of dinosaurs celebrate the Jurassic Age. The media, I mean, they're just, and they don't know what fools they look like. They really do not know how they're making themselves appear. And also a prediction that I made long ago, ladies and gentlemen, looks like coming true. At least a number of roots are being planted that might make my prediction come true very soon. Friday, let's go. Yes, sir, Bob, the fastest week in media, and here it is already Friday, and you know the rules on Open Line Friday, and I'm allowed to break them, by the way, but you're not. I don't care about Watergate or Deep Throat anymore, but I'm going to talk about it. It's going to be a professional test, because when I talk about things I don't care about, I generally sound like I don't care about them. But we'll see. Monday through Thursday, we only talk about the things that, well, actually, I'm not breaking the rules, because Monday through Thursday is when we only talk about things that I'm interested in. But on Friday, I open it up to things I'm not interested in, including calls from you. If you want to talk about something I don't care about, that's the day we do it. So I'm going to include myself here as an Open Line Friday caller. I'm going to talk about something I don't care about, or I'm fed up with, and that would be Watergate. So here's the telephone number, 800-282-2882. The email address is rush@eibnet.com. Before we get started with all the substance of the program, just a programming reminder. Today inaugurates our podcasting service at rushlimbaugh.com. And just as I promised, the software, the Rush 24/7 Media Center software, posted late yesterday afternoon at rushlimbaugh.com, and it's there now. It's compatible with both Mac and Windows, and it's simple. It's free and it's simple. All you do is you go there, go to www.rushlimbaugh.com, click on the download. It'll download, even if you people are using I don't know if anybody still uses modems out there. It'll be quick. It's a small file. Download it. It's very easy to install, particularly on a Mac. I've not used Windows, so I don't know what the installation process there is, but I'm sure it's very simple there as well. It is, Brian. And what'll happen is, in the installation process, you will designate a location on your computer where you want the daily podcast files to be downloaded to. It'll happen automatically. Now, just so you know, these files, the MP3 files of each day's show, will be available within an hour to two, more like 2 hours after every show. So we finish at 3 Eastern. That means about 5 o'clock Eastern. You'll get a note on your computer saying the download's complete, and you'll have that day, or in this case today's program, each hour its own file. So you'll have, for each show, 3 MP3s designated by hour 1, hour 2, hour 3. And once you have them, you transfer them to your MP3 player and an iPod or whatever it is. And there you have portability. And if you don't, you just listen to them from the gloriously rich, expensive speakers on your computer. And it's that simple. You have to be a subscriber at rushlimbaugh.com in order to avail yourself of this service. But it inaugurates today, starts today. And again, the downloading software is free and it's simple. I mean, it's indescribably simple. Take you all the 2 minutes to do this. But if you don't want to go the automated route, you don't have to download the software. If you're a member, you'll be able to log onto the website and manually download the 3 files each day that represent the show, the first 3 hours, 1, 2, and 3 of each program. If you'd rather do it in the automated way. Now, just to remind you, and I want to mention this as briefly but as thoroughly as I can. We are not able at this time to include any music or parodies in these MP3 files because of copyright laws. And I know many of you have written and you've said, well, other shows are doing it. I know, but they're not big enough to get noticed. Let me just be on it. We can't do this stealthily. And there are laws against distributing copyrighted material for free. We can't do it. We got hundreds of thousands of subscribers here, and if for every piece of music that would be included in the program, we'd be giving it away to that many hundreds of thousands of people, even parodies, because the parodies are based on copyrighted material. And we're not lawbreakers here, and we're not going to flaunt it. We'll work within the system to try to find a way around it. But the the cost to include it right now is prohibitive, and we would have to charge you an arm and a leg to include the music. We may get away with bumper music because it's just 10 to 15 seconds of each selection, may be considered fair usage. Now, as to the other programs that do it, I can't speak for them. They may be ignorant of the law, or they may not. They may be willing to risk it until they're noticed and then have to cease and desist at that point. But because we are mammoth in size, we simply cannot hide what we do here. And we're the industry leader, and so we're not going to break the law. You know what the copyright laws are, and you know how vigorously they are pursued. If you've rented a DVD or bought one, I mean, you've seen the FBI warnings that you can't speed through, and you can see you can get fined for $250,000 and sent to jail for your life. If you're caught, well, I'm exaggerating, but I mean, who wants to go to jail for, copying a DVD to somebody? And then they're really watching this, so it's just what we're governed by here. So, but it all starts today, and the first downloads will occur, within 90 minutes to 2 hours after today's program. So, wanted to get you up to speed on that big day here, and we've all been looking forward to this, and it's actually a result of meeting a public demand. I mean, I was telling my broadcast partners here that, for months I've been, Rush, when are you going to podcast? When are you going to start a podcast? Of course, we've had a lot of things to decide about this. We're very loyal to our radio stations that broadcast the program, but since this is a subscriber service and we're not giving it away, we made the decision that the demand is popular enough to what Mr. Sturdley. What are you laughing at now? What in the world did I say that is causing you to lose your composure in there? Here I'm trying to be very serious with the audience, very informative, and so forth. And you're sitting there laughing. What is it? Are you telling Dawn dirty jokes? There's nothing to do with what I'm saying? Yeah, I do qualify to get a $50 rebate from Apple. I have one of the iPods. I guess I don't even know what the battery defect is. What is it? It drained really quickly. Okay. Well, anyway, yeah, I do qualify because I bought my iPod before 2004. But I'm not going to apply for the $50. It's not worth the time. I'll just go get a new iPod with a decent battery in it. I'm in no mood here to punish Apple. I'm not one of those people. I got in the mail yesterday, I got 3 offers to participate in some class action lawsuit in a healthcare firm, and I'm not even part of. I got 3 different offers to participate in some class action lawsuit against a particular HMO or a healthcare company. And I'm looking at this, never heard of this. I don't ever file a healthcare claim with anybody. I just pay it. Now, if they're sending out these letters to people on a mailing list, for crying out loud, so I looked at them all and I trashed them. It's just not my style. I don't feed off of others. And I accept that corporations are going to make mistakes. I'm not built that way. I'm not a coupon clipper. I'm not going to run around and join. I took Vioxx. I'm not going to join some stupid ambulance chasing lawyer's attempt to get rich because I didn't take it that much. But I took Bextra when they took Vioxx off. I took Bextra. I can't watch television without seeing ads from these sleazeballs. If you took Bextra and you took Vioxx and you think you're in danger of dying next week, call us at Sleazeball Incorporated. It's not me. I don't play the lottery. So, okay, so my battery drained a little fast. I just charged it. Didn't know the difference. Battery runs down, you recharge it. Sorry, maybe I'm just too much a realist for all this. At any rate, let me take a brief time out, my friends. We will be back, and we'll get started with this deep throat rot gut, and then we'll get on to my. By the way, HR came storming in here today with a New York Times story. So, I thought you were just having fun with Carl Bernstein. I thought you were making fun of him being left out, not having any money, it all being focused on Woodward. I said, no, it's true. He said, I know. New York Times has a whole story here today about how Woodward gets all the attention and Bernstein's basically a lapdog. The New York Times, and so That's because I know these people, folks. How about 16 years? I know these people. Back after this. Stay with us. Okay. All right. Let's start with this Watergate stuff. Get this. This is a story from WBAL-TV, Channel 11 in Baltimore. The former FBI official who revealed himself this week as Deep Throat apparently also leaked information to the Washington Post about two of the biggest stories in Maryland in the 1970s. Post reporter Bob Woodward wrote in Thursday's paper that Mark Felt told him in the spring of 72 during the Watergate investigation that the FBI had some information that Vice President Spiro Agnew had received a $2,500 bribe. The tip produced no story, but Agnew resigned in 73 upon his conviction for income tax evasion. A Maryland judge found in 81 that Agnew had accepted kickbacks as Maryland governor. Woodward also said Felt was his source for a 72 story about the investigation into the wounding of George Wallace in Laurel, Maryland. Woodward cited high federal officials as saying there was no indication that suspect Arthur Bremer had been hired to shoot Wallace. George Beale, a former U.S. attorney who prosecuted both Agnew and Bremer, said the leaks didn't hurt either case. He said the reported bribe to Agnew was not substantiated. The Bremer story eased concerns about a possible conspiracy. So here you have Deep Throat also leaking information in Agnew. This guy was leaking all over the place. He clearly had a bug on for the Nixon administration. And let's be honest, they were portraying this guy as a holier-than-thou devotee of the FBI. The FBI was no romper room here when J. Edgar Hoover was running that place. I mean, let's put it on the table here. The FBI had its own brand of power structure corruption, shall we say. Hoover had his own ways of getting presidents to toe his own line because he's out collecting dirt on them. How do you think what's his name Felt finds out about this stuff? So it just the more we learn about this, the more we find out how dirty everybody is in all of this. You know, Felt's leaking all the time about all kinds of things, including Agnew. There was no cover-up or threat of a cover-up in that case. Sometimes his information was wrong. It just shows that they liked the guy because he was attacking the Nixon crowd yet. Now, I also found this little piece from Michael Ledeen in the corner at National Review Online. Ledeen writes, I sometimes lecture on journalism, and much of that talk consists of excerpts from All the President's Men by Woodward and Bernstein. In that book, they admit to a wide range of unethical and illegal behavior, from tampering with a grand jury to illegally obtaining and using private telephone records, a kind of private Patriot Act for the Post. Then I read from a section, pages 184 to 192, in which they discuss an unhappy event. They had written that grand jury testimony had fingered H.R. Haldeman as a conspirator in Watergate. Ron Ziegler, Nixon's press secretary, violently denied it. Woodstein went back to their sources and concluded they'd been deceived. The story was wrong. Then on page 192, the reporters said to Ben Bradley, their editor, they were virtually certain that Sloan must not have given testimony about Haldeman before the grand jury. Woodward suggested writing that much at least and acknowledging the error. No way, said Bradley. Bradley turned to his typewriter after a number of false starts, issued the following statement, we stand by our story. So Bradley stood by a false story published by Woodward and Bernstein, and there's a footnote. Bradley was later to recall, I issued two statements in that one year. What options did I really have? I can remember sitting down typewriter and writing about 30 statements, then sort of saying, screw it, let's go stand by our boys. And Ledeen says, which is why I have no heroes in this saga. So here you have, they admit in their book, All the President's Men, that a wide range of unethical, illegal behavior, tampering with a grand jury, illegally obtaining using private phone records, and then not admitting their mistake or error. So you have Woodward and Bernstein admitting that they lied, that they cheated, and they covered up. I mean, what Ben Bradley did, standing by his boys, was a cover-up. They covered up. Nobody investigates the Post. Nobody investigates other media outlets. Oh, no. They're insulated from what they do to other people. They can go out and destroy anybody they want. You better not try to find out anything about them. They are able to conduct themselves in the same manner in which they try to cite others as unethical or crooked and then seek to destroy them. Dan Rather was the same thing. It's just he got caught. But here's what the point is, folks. We have Woodward and Bernstein, by their own admission, in their book, lying, engaging in unethical behavior, and covering up mistakes. And today, this is being called great journalism. This whole orgy this week has been about, whoa, this is our high point. This is the peak of our mountaintop. This is when we were the best. This is what journalism is meant to be all about. Yes. This is great journalism, right? Well, if this is great journalism, then this is the standard by which we should measure them. We should assume that journalists are lying, behaving in unethical ways, and covering up their own mistakes. We should assume that that is what great journalism is. They are every bit what we call them and think of them. You know, I frankly, I don't think that Woodward and Bernstein and Bradley or the mainstream media realizes that the more we learn about Mark Felt and his motives and the Post's reporting techniques, the more sleazy and disreputable they all look. While they're out there touting themselves as, this is great journalism. This is when it was really good. There weren't any distractions out there like Limbaugh. We were able to go do whatever we wanted to do. If we wanted to destroy a president with phony forged documents from the Texas National Guard, then by God we could do it, and that's great journalism. Fine. We will judge them on this basis, ladies and gentlemen. It's just that simple. Ben Stein is back for more. The American Spectator Online. Just a few more thoughts on the events of the day. Now we read that Mark Felt's family and Mark Felt put out their story solely to make money off of it. So this makes the family's karma even more unnerving. The father, patriarch Mark, took out his anger and frustration for being passed over at the FBI by ruining the career of the peacemaker Richard Nixon. So he condemned a whole subcontinent to genocide and slavery and poverty to please his own wounded vanity. Maybe his nickname ought to be Sour Grapes and not Deep Throat, because he has as much in common with that fox as with a porn star. And blood'll tell, as the old saying goes. His posterity is now dragging out his old body and putting it on display to make money. Parentheses. Have you noticed how Mark Felt looks like one of those old Nazi war criminals they find in Bolivia or Paraguay? That same haunted, hunted look combined with the glee at what he has managed to get away with so far. And it gets worse. It's been reported that Mark Felt is at least part Jewish. Well, the reason this is worse is that at the same time that Mark Felt was betraying Richard Nixon, Nixon was saving Eretz Israel. It's a terrifying chapter in betrayal and ingratitude. If he even knows what shame is, I wonder if he felt a moment's shame as he tortured the man who brought security and salvation to the land of so many of his and my fellow Jews. Somehow I look at his demented face and I doubt it. Third, correct me if I'm wrong about this, but isn't it a crime not only to dispense classified information, but also to receive classified information? Why wasn't anybody ever prosecuted about this? Is there a statute of limitations? Now, this goes on, Stein's piece. I've read about half of it. I'll share the rest of it with you. We come back from our obscene profit break, folks, here on the EIB Network. Rush Limbaugh on Open Line Friday, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Yeah, we roll on as Open Line Friday continues. Now rejoining Ben Stein and his piece today, the American Spectator Online, I don't feel for Felt. He writes, have you noticed how Mark Felt looks like one of those old Nazi war criminals that they find in Bolivia or Paraguay? That same haunted, hunted look combined with a glee at what he's managed to get away with so far. But there was and is a bigger story here than Felt. Frankly, Nixon's no longer alive. If he was a hero, he's a deceased hero. Bob Woodward's nobody's idea of a hero. Maybe a super businessman and accomplished writer, but no hero. Mark Felt is only Richard Benveniste's hero. But there are major heroes out there every day. There are 140,000 of them in Iraq and about 15,000 in Afghanistan at lethal risk every minute of every day. There are 1 million more ready to go. There are millions of family members of these heroes. Can we possibly conceivably forget them? Somehow I think we have. The lead news stories are almost never about them. The story's Michael Jackson or Mark Felt. This is desperately wrong, and I do mean desperately. I'm going to write a lot more about this Monday, but in the meantime, let's remember there's a war on, and the best and bravest of our nation are dying every day to protect a great nation, but one which seems lately to have forgotten even what the nation is all about. George Newmayer has a great characterization in his lead as to what is happening this week. He's also at the American Spectator Online. Mark Felt's emergence as Deep Throat has occasioned a prolonged old-timers day of the American left, allowing various aging fakers to take one last long victory lap. With relish, they have renewed their intense moralizing about Richard Nixon, even though their own ethics evaporated a long time ago. We overthrew a corrupt order, they in effect say, by puffing themselves up, an arrogance that would be more comprehensible if they hadn't proceeded to create a new corrupt order. The champions of Deep Throat built atop the ruins of Richard Nixon, not a better culture, but a base culture that would culminate in the Deep Throat presidency of Bill Clinton. And it's sort of the point that I'm making. These guys have assumed what Nixon was. They have become what Nixon was, the people in the mainstream press. Let me give you an audio soundbite here to demonstrate it. Dan Rather last night on CNN, the second edition of Larry King Live, a caller called in, said, yes, I have a question for Dan Rather. I'd like to know your opinion on the speculation that Mark Felt should have gone to his boss at the FBI or to the president with concerns about the Watergate investigation. You played a major role in investigative journalism, Gunga Dan. It's realistic to even think that?
No, I don't think he had a choice. I think he took the way that he knew would be most effective. I think the country owes Katharine Graham, Ben Bradley, Bob Woodward, Carl Bernstein, and Mark Felt a debt of gratitude for what they did, because I repeat for emphasis, this was people believing they were above the Constitution, they were above the law, and they were very nearly pulling it off. And whatever it took to get them, that is, to expose them, to bring it into the sunlight, I don't think you can applaud enough.
Whatever it took. Whatever it took. Forged documents. We know the story is true. If we can't prove it, we'll manufacture the evidence. Whatever it takes. Whatever it takes to get them. The media is granting to themselves unchecked, unboundaried behavior to get the bad guys. And in the process, they do what they accuse the bad guys of doing, but let somebody start an investigation of their tactics. Oh, no, can't do that. Of course, Ben Bradley, all these people are owed a big debt. Notice that nobody cares to find out what Bill Moyers did, asking the FBI for name checks on Senate staffers of Barry Goldwater. And the examples here are legion that I could give you of other presidents, other administrations engaging in Nixonian-like behavior. But, of course, those were Democrats, and as such, they were untouchable. Let's listen to a little bit of Ben Bradley, the former editor of the Washington Post, who decided to cover up a huge error made by Woodward and Bernstein when they misreported evidence that supposedly had come from grand jury testimony, which was leaked, which is illegal. He refused to stand. He, in fact, stood by an error rather than correct it. Last night, yesterday, Judy Woodruff, Inside Politics. Judy says, here's something else that Chuck Colson's saying. He says he thinks it's very sad that Mark Felt broke the trust and the confidence of the President of the United States.
Terribly sad. I mean, I'm crying. Why is it sad? Yeah. I don't get that. He said, and think for a minute, where would Felt have gone? He said he saw something wrong in the government, and what should he have done? He couldn't really go to his superior, who was L. Patrick Gray, who was busy throwing documents into the Potomac River from the bridge. He couldn't go to the Attorney General, who was on his way to jail himself.
You hear the contempt here? FBI director throwing documents off the bridge. You hear the contempt here, and let's not forget, ladies and gentlemen, Mark Felt could have resigned publicly and said there's corruption here, and I'm not going to be a part of it. I love the FBI too much. Could have gotten the media on. But you see, the template here is that no, the press has to be the ones to uncover this. You can't do it internally. You have to come to us. You have to come. It's the only thing he could have done. Rather said it. Now Ben Bradley has said it. The hatred for Nixon is just dripping in this next bite. Judy says, let me read to you what Colson says. He says, if Felt wanted to talk, he should have revealed it to a grand jury or prosecutor. He says he should have gone to the president himself. He said, if the president thinks the FBI is going to investigate him, he's going to act. He said the president couldn't have ignored this.
You don't think he could? I mean, the president goes to Nixon? Give me a break.
I mean, Felt could have gone directly.
It is not realistic.
Yeah, it's not realistic. I guess Woodward coming to Ben Bradley said, we really goofed up here. We made a mistake. We misreported illegal grand jury testimony. We're going to stand by it. What else could Woodward have done? What else could he have done? Could Woodward have gone to the New York Times? Is that what he should have done? Should he resigned? Should he have said, I'm not going to work this way. We made a mistake. You're going to cover it up. So the Washington Post, involved in its own cover-up, admitted ethical lapses and so forth. Here's the final bite. Judy says the legacy of Watergate. Clearly, nobody disagrees that toppling a president, getting this government back on an even keel, critical outcome of this. But there is a debate, by the way, we do debate that, Judy. You say nobody disagrees that toppling a president. A lot of people debate this. But she says there's a bit of a debate that goes on among journalists about whether what Woodward and Bernstein did, on the one hand, people say, yeah, it led to good, vigorous investigative reporting, when others say, but it also led to people who just want to make a name for themselves. It led to people like, It
wasn't just Woodward and Bernstein. I mean, they did lion's share of the early work, but there was some great reporting done by other newspapers, including the Times, the LA Times, the Globe, and in Boston. So we're getting all the credit we need, and there are other newspapers who did plenty of things. Second, I mean, the anonymous source was essential to it.
Yeah, it gave us guys like Stephen Glass. It gave us guys like Jason Blair. It gave us guys like reporters that have been fired at the Boston Globe, all these anonymous made-up quotes and sources. Yep, I'll tell you what, if this is the zenith of modern American journalism, Watergate, and what all happened there, we are thus being asked to judge journalism in that way and in that context. And so we're happy to do so, because we have been all along. That's the dirty little secret. We have always suspected the media. And I'm going to tell you something, folks. It is important to note, here they are committing the same kinds of transgressions that they think they need to put other people out of business for, that they seek to destroy. But by Dan Rather's own admission, we can do whatever it takes, because we are the guardians. We're the guardians of the Constitution. We're the guardians of the First Amendment. And then he went on to say, early, and I've got that bite, he went on to say, when he was being asked about his mistakes in the National Guard story, journalism's not an exact science. Of course not. It cannot be exact, nor can it be a science when your mandate is whatever it takes. Anyway, I got to go. Quick timeout. We'll come back, grab some of your phone calls here as Open Line Friday rolls on. Stay with us. I know I said we're going to go to the phones, but since I mentioned Dan Rather, we may as well get these other two bites in. From Larry King Alive last night, this is about the forged document Bill Burkett, Bush National Guard story. Larry said, as you reflect, and after seeing the report, what went wrong in your Matter of the Air National Guard story? Where along the way did it snap?
The documents were part of a fairly wide array of information we had. That the facts that we presented...
Stop the tape. There aren't any facts. That's the point. That's the problem. There aren't any facts. The only thing of which there is a wide array is paranoid satellite antenna coming out of Dan Rather's head, thinking that things he's making up are true. There aren't any facts. We'll listen to more of this.
And some of it new information was supported by all kinds of things other than the documents.
Stop the tape. Then why did it get retracted? Why did it get apologized for? Where is all of this other detail or material? Where are all kinds of things other than the documents? Where are they? Why all the people involved quit or fired? Here's more.
The panel came forward, and what they concluded, among the things they concluded, after months of investigation and spending millions of dollars, they could not determine that the documents were fraudulent. Important point. Said, we don't know whether the documents are fraudulent or not.
Be still, my beating heart. My God, folks, he thinks they're still real. Does it occur to anybody? Here we have the CBS News Investigative Journalist Department, the Investigative Journalism Division. Something goes wrong with one of their stories. They can't investigate it themselves? If they can find all manner of things about Enron, Walmart, Bill Burkett, George Bush, why can't they find out what went wrong in their own shop? Why does it require an independent commission? Is it because maybe people wouldn't believe what an internal investigation produced? Yes. What does it say about an investigative journalist who cannot investigate his own work? Because nobody would believe the result. So you have to bring in a lawyer, Richard Thornburg, who, by the way, was also retained by CBS for other things. He can't produce a report that harms his client. He'd be guilty of malpractice. That's why there was no bias was part of the report, and that's why we couldn't conclude anything about the documents. So it was a whitewash in a way, but it was also kid glove treatment for the people inside CBS. But we all know they're forged. Everybody knows it. But here's the last holdout, Dan Rather. And here's a bite on that. Larry says, are you saying the story might be correct?
Well, I'm saying a prudent person might take that view.
You'd have that view.
Well, I'm saying a prudent person might take that view. Number two, important.
Whoa. We're talking about facts here. We're talking about journalists. A prudent person might take the view that the story's right. Well, do you have that view, Dan? Just saying, a prudent person might take that view. Isn't that the kind of answer a president would give you, Dan, in a press conference, that you'd launch into him, all over him as evading? Isn't that the kind of an answer that you'd spend 2 weeks trying to destroy a president over for not being forthcoming? What's he trying to hide? Why won't he be forthcoming with us? Here's the rest of the bite.
They concluded the story was not born of any personal or political bias. I do hope people will keep in mind that two of their findings were what I just described to you. It wasn't born of political or personal bias, and they could not determine whether the documents were fraudulent or not.
Stop the tape a minute. Did anybody hear Larry asking about that? When people start denying something that hadn't been asked. Now, I know the allegation's been out there. There was bias in the reporting. But Larry didn't ask him that because Larry wants him to come back someday. Larry didn't have it. He's out there denying it anyway. You always got to be suspicious of that.
It's not a complaint, but I do want to point out, and I understand when people write about this story, they often say, well, they dealt with fake documents or fraudulent documents. I just say gently that that's not known.
You know, I have the obvious conclusion. Come on, Dan, wake up. I mean, get out of the fog. It's not known that they're forged. Yes, it is. It is. They had their own experts that told them they were forged, and they didn't use them because they wanted the story. They didn't want the fact known that these were forged. They tried to get away with this because they forgot that their power no longer exists. They don't have a monopoly anymore. But all that aside, we just heard Dan Rather say, in praising Woodward, Bernstein, Felt, Bradley et al., whatever it takes. Now, clearly, Dan Rather believes that George Bush didn't do right at the National Guard. Clearly, Dan Rather believes this. Clearly, Dan Rather believes that George W. Bush lied and got favoritism-type help from his powerful father and was allowed to get away without going to Vietnam for a cushy job flying jets. Rather believes this. Does he not? He believes it. Well, Dan, what happened to whatever it takes? If whatever it takes to get somebody you believe is corrupt and lying at the highest levels of power, why don't you stand behind the forged documents? You're just doing whatever it takes. Why have to defend the document? Why have to get into an argument about whether documents are forged? You believe them, so say, I know this is true. Whatever it takes, Dan. Whatever it takes. This wouldn't be the first time that you and your practitioners have used lies and deception and false charges to try to harm people. Why not just follow it out? Follow it through. Yeah, we forged the documents because we know he's guilty. And whatever it takes to get powerful people. Why don't just admit? It's what you're doing about Watergate. You're going back 32 years. What's the Washington Post done for anybody in 32 years? But lose subscribers. What are they doing? Have to go back 32 years to celebrate the salad days? And in the process of celebrating the salad days, we're told the epitome of great journalism is this? Well, if so, Dan, if that's the epitome of great journalism, you need to change your tack on this. You need to admit the documents are forged and give yourself credit for doing what you could, whatever it took, to get a corrupt president out of office. And then keep trying. Don't admit failure. Make up more stuff about Bush. Whatever it takes, Dan. I want to both apologize to and thank those of you on hold, because I told you I was going to get to the phones 10 minutes ago and I didn't. Well, I'm going to make it. We'll get to the phones in the opening segment of the next hour, because they've been on hold for an hour. It's open on Friday. If people want to weigh in on this, but I just wanted to see how good I could be talking about something I don't care about. I just wanted to test my own professionalism. Thank you for indulging me on this, ladies and gentlemen, because it was a big test. How many times are you going to talk about something you don't care about? Blah, 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 blah. It gets boring. Well, I'm fed up with all this. But nevertheless, I'm always testing myself. I'm always reaching for new horizons. And I thank you for indulging this examination of self. I'll reward you coming up soon. Well, now I'm frustrated. The commercial break ended too soon. I've got the new Mac OS 10.4 Tiger. And there's should I even get into this? Oh, I will. And just, it's Friday. It's the Rush Limbaugh program. Let's go. And it's great to have you with us on our first day of podcasting at www.rushlimbaugh.com. This is our first program that will be distributed to subscribers at limbaugh.com via MP3 files. We have software, the Rush 24/7 Media Center, front and center at rushlimbaugh.com. Easy to download, easy to install. Once you've installed it, it will automatically receive. You don't have to be online for this. It'll automatically receive. Well, you don't have to be connected to the website for this. The Media Center does that for you. As long as it's running, you will automatically receive MP3 files of that day's program. Each show, 3 files, the first hour, second hour, and third hour. And all of this is free to subscribers at rushlimbaugh.com. Here's the telephone number, 800-282-2882. The email address is rush@eibnet.com. A little quick, I got 10.4 Tiger, actually running 10.4.1. And there's a new preview app that's a much quicker way of viewing PDF files than opening up Adobe Acrobat. So I use PDF or preview to open PDF. And I thought that this new program allowed me to take the text of a PDF message and copy it and move it to some other application. I thought I'd read that it did that. So I'm trying to do this, and it doesn't do it. I thought it did. Now, if there's a way to do it and I haven't figured it out, I'd like to know. But the reason is I want to send what I got to somebody on a BlackBerry, and a BlackBerry will not open PDFs. So I actually have to get the text off of this PDF and put it in like an email document or a Word document or whatever, and then send it out that way. Preferably an email document, because it'll show up as the text. So I was trying to do that during the top of the hour commercial break here, and I was using the text tool, the annotate tool. I was using the select tool. None of it, it doesn't work. I don't know if Acrobat does this, but I thought that there was all this new workability now with PDFs, that you could take the text in them and edit it and all sorts of, and it probably is. I just haven't figured out how to do it. This is the first time I tried it. Anyway, so that's why I was frustrated. All right, when I opened the program an hour ago, I mentioned that a prediction I made is starting to come true. And I'm going to mention this. I'm going to go to the phone calls. I have a little blurb here that I got earlier today from another website. We're already seeing rumblings of the next big thing for the Democratic Party. It's impeachment. Let me count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different web links that you can click on and find impeachment websites for petitions for people to sign. In and out. They're kooks. They're kook sites. But hey, who's dictating things to the Democratic Party these days? They're kooks. Democrats, I told you before last year's election, if Bush wins this, keep a sharp eye. They'll start on impeachment. And you know what? I'll tell you what it's going to be. Abu Ghraib and Gitmo. This judge, Alvin Hellerstein, has decided that not only should pictures from Abu Ghraib be released under the Freedom of Information Act, so should videos. This is a Freedom of Information Act brought by the ACLU. Judge Hellerstein the other day said, okay, the more pictures, the better. Now videos as well. And the purpose, the ACLU says, is to demonstrate that it's not just a bunch of renegade soldiers, but that this went to the top. Ergo impeachment. I'm just warning you, it's percolating out there on these kook Democrat websites, and I predicted it. In fact, there's even one of these links is to a letter to the editor in the South Florida Sun-Sentinel in Fort Lauderdale. And this letter to the editor talks about how Bush needs to be impeached. Now, my experience with letters to the editor in South Florida newspapers is that they generally are the forerunners of upcoming editorials. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's an editorial from this newspaper someday about the need maybe to look into impeachment because of Abu Ghraib or whatever they come up with, forged documents that are true, whatever they come up with. Now, get this, along the same lines, our buddies at Newsmax today, our buddy Carl Limbacher has the story. Failed presidential candidate John Kerry said yesterday he intends to confront Congress with a document touted by critics of President Bush as evidence that he committed impeachable crimes by falsifying evidence of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. John Kerry, on the floor of the Senate, well, I don't know if he's on the floor of the Senate, but he said he intends to confront Congress with a document touted by critics. I guarantee you it's from one of these wacko kook websites. Kerry said, when I go back to Washington on Monday, I'm going to raise the issue, referring to the Downing Street memo in an interview with the Massachusetts Standard Times newspaper. Kerry said, I think it's a stunning, unbelievably simple and understandable statement of the truth and a profoundly important document that raises stunning issues here at home. The Downing Street memo, first reported on the 1st of May by the London Times, was drafted by Matthew Rycroft, foreign policy aide to Tony Blair. It's said to be minutes of a July 2002 meeting where Blair allegedly admitted the Bush administration fixed Iraq intelligence to manufacture a rationale for war. Ralph Nader called for an impeachment investigation on Tuesday in an op-ed piece published by the Boston Globe. It's time for Congress to investigate the illegal Iraq war as we move toward the third year of the endless quagmire that many security experts believe jeopardizes U.S. safety by recruiting and training more terrorists, wrote Nader. The British memo contains no quotes from either Bush or Blair and is notably slim on evidence implicating Bush in a WMD cover-up. So when you got John Kerry out there going to confront Congress with this, and I got these 10 website links, I just want you to remember, predicted it right here on this program. They are failing to get Bush discredited any other way. The 3 of these judges that they despise are going to be confirmed to the circuit court. It's going to be a Supreme Court nominee coming up. And remember what the purpose, I'm convinced the purpose of the Democratic Party is to live out these 8 years with Bush in the White House, and at the end of the 8 years, have as little to show for it as possible. They're just, to them, these whole 8 years are illegitimate because 2000 Florida was illegitimate. 2004 was thus illegitimate because Bush was selected, not elected. So he didn't have a right to run for re-election in 2004. Then he won. That's fraudulent because of voting machine problems in Ohio. The race was too close to call, except for those 130,000 votes. And so they're trying to make this just illegitimate, delegitimize this whole 8 years. That's their policy by obstructing everything. And now to attempt to tie the administration. You watch, this impeachment stuff is not just going to remain on websites. That is, it now hasn't. It's now been actually mentioned by John Kerry. Here's Alan in Atlanta. Alan, I'm glad you called. Welcome to Open Line Friday. Hello.
Hi, Rush. Thanks for taking my call.
You bet, sir.
Yeah. I was thinking, do you think this attempt by the media to immortalize Mark Felt and classifying him as a hero is nothing more than a long-running advertisement that's really an attempt to recruit a Bush leaker that'll step up and take down the current administration in the same way they took down Nixon?
No, I don't think it's really about that, but I think that's a part of it. I don't think they're doing this so that they can convince Bush leakers to come forward. I think they're doing this to relive their glory in salad days. But I think I think they probably would not disagree with you that it has that ancillary purpose. Sure,
Yeah,
you too can be a hero of the Washington Post. Just come tell us some dirt about George W. Bush, but make sure the documents are real. You too can be a hero to the New York Times. You too can be a hero to CBS. Yeah, I don't doubt that there is, because they're making a big push now that this validates anonymous sources. Validates anonymous sources. So yeah, you can say it's a bit of an invitation here to get more of this. No question about it. Quick time out. Thanks for the call, Alan. Back in just a second. My gosh, I'm glad I ate lunch earlier today. I would have gotten sick with seeing that. Just watching CNN. Greetings, welcome back, Rush. Well, it was a picture on CNN. That's not CNN itself. I figure out why I can't. The text in this PDF is actually an image. It's a picture of a letter. It's not the text itself. I could get the text if it was text, but this is a scanned image of a letter. So I would have to type it manually if I wanted to send it to somebody who cannot open a PDF on a BlackBerry. Anyway. We are back, and we continue now on the phones. We'll start with Melissa, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you. It's an honor to speak with you today.
Thank you.
I wanted to thank you for making podcasting available.
You're welcome.
I started listening to you 2 years ago, and it made me realize how extremely conservative I am. And I later, about 2 months after that, became engaged, and I thought, oh, no, what if he's not as conservative as I am? And through listening to you, he has really come around, and this podcasting is really going to make it a lot easier for me to continue my husband training.
Well, I'm always happy to help with that. In fact, I could probably help you. I've been so well trained in the past in that regard that I know the techniques. Because I've been the victim, whatever. I know what you're, the student. I've been the student. I've been the student of such retraining. And if this helps, I'm all for happy marriages. And if this will help your marriage, something else you can do with this, Melissa. I mean, people are always asking in emails, could you send me that monologue? Could you send me, Mom, that's a great best of monologue. That show's great. You can put together your own best of shows here, hour by hour anyway. Because the files are sent to you that way, first hour, second hour, and third hour. So there's any number of things you can do. Now, these can be big files, folks. I have to tell you, these are they're MP3s, but 3 hours of an MP3 is pretty big. So you will be chalking up your hard drive here if you keep a lot of these. So that you might want to have put them on CDs, especially if you've got a CD player that plays MP3 files. Or transfer them to your iPod or MP3 player or what have you. But they are data hogs. I mean, they're compressed as they are, but still they'll eat up some hard drive space. Now, this doesn't concern me because what is my hard drive? I have to look. I'm not sure what my hard drive is, but I mean, no, not yet, not quite in terabytes, but it's multiple gigabytes. So this, of course, I will not have a problem with. But if you get a laptop that you use or whatever, it's something to be cognizant of. Adam in Hemet, California. Welcome to the EIB network.
Oh, Rush. Conservative first, Republican second. Greetings from the West Coast.
That's the way to be. thank you very much.
Yeah, second-time caller, long-time listener. I just want to know, and it's interesting you brought up that impeachment. Barbara Boxer, dark horse candidate for 2008? What do you think?
I don't think so. I mean, look, I have to tell you something, folks, and maybe I'm getting swept up here in all the hullabaloo and the conventional wisdom myself. But back, a year ago or 6 months ago, when the conventional wisdom was that Hillary's has a nomination for asking, I say, folks, I'm not going to go along with this. I mean, conventional wisdom 4 years out, it's a bit premature. But I'm looking at this, and she's already gobbling up all the money. She just finished a bunch of LA fundraisers in secret. 3 of them, in fact, that generated $1 million. I think it's pretty much hers. If she wants it, she's got to win 06. that's the next election up. But I think if she wants it, it's hers. There are other candidates that want it. There are dark horse candidates. John Kerry wants it, which is why he's trying to get his name attached to so much legislation, why he's being so vocal so often. I think it's why he's leading this impeachment drive. The New York Observer this week had an interesting story, too. Democrats trek to Park Avenue for PAC books. Now, that means, here are the names in this story. Kerry, the Brett girl, Wesley Clark. You remember Wesley Clark? Wesley Clark wants to run again. Evan Bayh, Mark Warner, Bill Richardson, and Joe Biden. They all made recent trips to New York to try to focus their campaigns and to get money from deep pocket liberals in Hillary's own state. Now, let me give you a quote, a little pop quiz. I want to ask you, who said this? Most of the candidates are like dogs beneath the dining room table hoping for surreptitious handouts. Who said that? You think it was me? Somebody on talk radio? Somebody on Fox News? No, it was Chris Lahanis. Chris Lehane, the former Clinton spokesman, we call him Lahanis here, commenting that there's very limited ground to harvest given Senator Clinton's role. The translation is, well, she's not yet running, but she's sucking all the money out of all the donors. And if she's already made a California trip and soaked up $1 million, where does it leave Kerry, Edwards, Clark, Evan Bayh, Mark Warner, Bill Richardson, and Joe Biden? Well, they're having to trek to her state, try to get money from New York liberal PACs. I don't know. I've heard Barbara Boxer's name as a dark horse candidate because the left kooks so very much love her, but it appears that there's a steamroller going on out there with Hillary at the wheel. John in Silver Spring, Maryland, you're next. Hello, sir.
Hey, Rush. Thanks for having me on.
You bet.
Hey, I was calling because I thought you guys would be interested in hearing about my experience this morning with the chairman's office at the DNC down in Washington. I went to the speech yesterday in the morning over at Hilton, Take Back America, and he was doing the We Have the Power speech, which was very interesting. Because,
are you a Democrat?
Yeah, I'm a Democrat,
well,
and I'm a conservative Democrat, and I'm an anti-crime person, so I don't believe in weakening police forces like many Democrats do. But I am a Democrat because local politics here in Maryland.
Yeah. You got to hate Walmart. You got to big on night vision goggles for seatbelt violators. Yeah.
Right, I totally understand, and this is not the kind of crime I'm talking about. I'm talking about violent crime when I say anti-crime. But anyway, neither here nor there. Listen to this speech. My father's a voting Republican, been for years. Unfortunately, I listened to this speech, and he goes, right there, all Republican voters just don't have it together. They say that they don't work honestly for a living or something like. I can't remember.
He said that Republicans haven't done an honest day's work in their life.
That's what he said. And then I took that as an affront to all the voters who actually voted. He was talking about the voters, not the Republican leadership. When I called the DNC chairman's office to just say, hey, look, can you pass along a message from me, a Democrat, and I would really like to know why why you think this is going to work to get back power in America. Anyway, the guy tells me that, he was referring to the leadership of the Republican Party, and that was a absolutely patently false statement, patently false. Then he tells me that, Democrats insult us all the time. I was like, well, that's not the point. And frankly, I don't really care about that. I don't really want to say let's not insult back. Let's just be who we are and get a message together. And
that's I think a matter of terminology. The Democrats may consider it an insult, but you have to consider they also consider accurate criticism of them to be vicious attacks.
That is correct.
So I think that what they're hearing as insults is actually the truth about them being said.
Well, and there's part of what, as a Democrat that's conservative, who really scares me to see like a dean in charge of the Democratic National Committee. To me, that seems very crazy to move people so far to the left. But then again, I can't explain that. But then the funniest part about it to me was actually the part about the speech about the pensions. Did you pick up on that stuff where he was kind of blaming the Bush administration for the pensions?
Yeah, we talked about this. Yeah, he wants portable pensions. He blamed Bush for destroying people's pensions and all this. Yeah, he had 3 basic requirements for getting the White House back. Portability of pensions. The other was a national holiday for Election Day, and I forget what the second one was, but I don't think it was funding. It might have been. But look, your point about Dean taking the party left, Dean is there because the party's gone left. The party went left. Dean is the tail on this dog. My hard drive, 250 gigabytes. I just checked it here in the break, and I got two of them. I got primary and a backup. That's here at the studio. Same thing at home. And same thing in, the Northeast. Greetings and welcome back. Rush Limbaugh, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. How about this story? This is our old buddy Edith Lederer at the Associated Press. Headline, UN, weapons equipment missing in Iraq. UN satellite imagery experts have determined that material that could be used to make biological, chemical weapons and banned long-range missiles has been removed from 109 sites in Iraq. UN weapons inspectors said in a report obtained yesterday. UN inspectors have been blocked from returning to Iraq since the U.S.-led war in 2003, so they've been using satellite photos to see what happened to the sites that were subject to UN monitoring because their equipment had both civilian and military uses. So here we go again. Things that never existed are missing. Second report such as this. Things that never existed are missing. UN satellite imagery experts determined the material that could be used to make biological or chemical weapons and banned long-range missiles have been removed from 109 sites in Iraq. Doesn't this always happen to Kerry? Yesterday he gives this interview, Bush needs to be impeached. They lied about weapons of mass destruction. Here comes his old buddies at the UN. Weapons of mass destruction that never existed are missing from Iraq. 109 sites. Gotta love that. Lanita in Orange County, California. Hi, welcome to the EIB network.
Hi, Rush. Mega black nuclear family dittos.
Well, thanks very much. Great to have you with us.
Oh, thank you. I'm calling about the landslide that happened on the beach in Laguna in California.
Yes.
The mayor declared it a disaster area in order for the governor to come in and rebuild all these $1 million homes. Yeah. And then they had a relief fund on the radio, and I laughed out loud.
Why?
Because the homes are worth between $1 million and $3 million.
Yeah, but wait a minute now. Wait just a second. We got to put that in perspective. A home in Laguna Beach worth $1 million to $3 million. I've seen these homes. They're shacks. They're little starter houses anywhere else.
Oh, not the ones that fail. See, that's what they're trying to get over on us. The ones that fail are huge. Yes, there are some houses in Laguna that are small, but not the ones that are damaged.
Okay, so you're offended that these super rich homeowners are being are asking for a relief fund to rebuild their property. Their insurance probably doesn't cover it. I don't know if they have landslide insurance out there, mudslide.
No, the insurance, because I guess like 20 years ago, it failed once before, and so the insurance will no longer cover it. And they didn't save. They probably do have lots of savings, but if the government is going to step in and rebuild, let them do it.
So you think this is unfair?
Absolutely.
Why? Well, who's going to pay for it if the government doesn't?
Those people are millionaires. They could pay for it themselves.
Oh, come on. You can't.
I don't feel sorry for
Most of these people are probably house poor.
No,
what kind of cars are in? They may have these $1 million to $3 million houses, but they're probably driving Volkswagen Beetles.
No, sir. No, sir. I don't believe that. I believe that they are living very well, and they just feel entitled. They feel like it's okay.
Lanita, I love you. You're trying to pull a good scam here on the number one scam artist of this type.
No, sir.
See, I hear you laughing. You're trying to get my goat with this because you heard me.
I promise. On the radio, they have these women crying about.
Oh no, I believe this. I'm saying your opposition to it is what the joke is.
I just can't. I found it funny more than anything else.
You find it funny that the rich would be bailed out?
Yes. I mean, what difference is it between farm subsidies or welfare?
Well, how many? Let me ask you a question, Lanita. Seriously now. How many people, I don't care how rich they are, how many people have enough money to just replace a home that gets totally destroyed?
No. What happens is when you go to build the house, they tell you the risk involved, and then you choose at that point.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So you're saying that people who purposely live near a floodplain, who then get flooded out and demand the government reimburse them, no. You took the risk. You knew that river could flood. Just like Oh, now this I understand. I have driven through Coldwater Canyon, I can't tell you how many times, and there are people with houses on stilts on the side of the hill.
Yes.
And I'm saying to myself, I would not, and there are people out on the deck enjoying their adult beverages as the sun sets, and I'm saying, you wouldn't get me in one of those stilt-borne houses on the side of a hill like that, knowing what happens with mudslides out there. So I see your point. So they knowingly took the risk, but they wanted the view of the ocean. Everything
Absolutely.
has a price. Everything has a price. Well, but the government bails everybody else out. Why not the rich?
Oh, wow. I guess. That just really hurt my feelings. I just couldn't even believe it.
Why are some people allowed to feel entitled and others not? The whole country is we've created a whole entitlement culture for as many people as possible. Why not the rich?
Because this is a huge entitlement exclamation point. You know, oh, I live in Laguna. Oh, I have $1 million house. It failed. I need some help. I think that's horrible.
Well, let me tell you a little story. The area of the country, and I'm not going to bother telling you why. You just have to trust me on this. I mean, I will tell you this. Take me a little time. The area of the country with the highest property values is Jupiter Island, Florida. And it's about 35 or 40 miles north of here. It's up in Martin County. And the reason primarily is it's a small place and only certain people are allowed to build their houses, have to be the certain size. There's no middle class there. It's all upper crust. And it's the wealthiest in terms of property value in the whole country. Now, the hurricanes hit very near there, 2 of them last year, and their beach was destroyed. Oh. And they have asked the state to rebuild the beach in front of their homes rather than, and if anybody has the money, to go, import sand from Saudi Arabia on a couple of barges, these guys do. And, the same reaction here. You should have seen the letters to the editor. You should have seen the editorials. That was outrage. How dare these, the wealthiest among us, want to prey on the poor by having the poor rebuild their beach?
No, Rush, the point is that Governor Schwarzenegger is begging and pleading for us to do all these things, with our budget, and they would sit there on the beach and on top of everything say they're going to rebuild. Let's say the government gave them some money to buy a house, a safer place, but never ever to rebuild, on the mountain. That's obviously sliding.
Mm-hmm.
It bothered me.
I've been joshing. I understand why you're upset. I even roped Snerdley, and Snerdley's looking at me wide-eyed in disbelief, like he can't believe what I'm saying. I'm just good at this.
Oh, good.
I would refer you to the Al Sharpton episode, folks, if you want to try to understand that in light of this.
You know what, Rush? I love Walter Mosley, and you have really made a difference for me. And 5 years ago, I would not have recognized how horrible it was that they were asking for relief. So I appreciate you.
I hate, who's Walter Mosley?
Isn't that the doctor guy that's on there all the time? What's his name?
Walter Williams.
Walter Williams, that guy.
Oh, yeah. The guy who makes fun of his wife all the time that guest hosts the show.
But you know what? He speaks a lot of truth when you're not there.
Well,
so I know. Really like him.
Absolutely. Why is he here?
You know what? And that's what I tell all my friends about you, because I get in arguments all the time, but you are on the radio speaking truth every day. Nobody can say, oh, that's not true, that's not true.
That's right.
So somebody needs to take a look at some of that stuff.
Well, I appreciate it. It is really an interesting societal thing. These people, and look, Lenita, I'm just going to tell you something now, and I've been cringing when I've watched the pictures of this and the TV networks, superimpose their graphics, multi-million-dollar homes, and then you see them, and they're multi-million-dollar homes because of where they are, not because of the kind of home they are.
Yes.
They're not that big. They're not mansions. No. Maybe I haven't seen all 18 that plummeted down the side of the hill, but I have seen some that are halfway down and that are there. And you know what property values are in California throughout the state, and the closer you get to the ocean, no matter where you are, the higher the value goes, and it's the dirt that is the cost. And how much ocean front you have in some place. But the houses themselves, I mean, you could build a huge mansion for the $3 million that it takes to build a little house out there. In Iowa or Arkansas, Missouri, or a lot of places in this country, Mississippi, Utah. It's amazing.
I live in Orange County, and a lot of people that I know are selling their homes as they retire and moving to Arizona or any other place.
Idaho.
And buying huge springs.
A lot of Californians going to Idaho.
Yes.
That's because Mark Furman's up there to protect them.
Oh, Lord.
But why are they doing that? You know why? They can't afford those homes in retirement.
Oh, that's true.
They can't afford them in retirement. It's just that simple. The cash flow is just too much. Their retirement pools, especially, just don't throw off enough cash flow to be able to afford those homes. And and then, okay, somebody's going to come along and buy them, and they do, but you're getting the property values out there in relation to income, and this has been going on in California and New York, a lot of big cities, San Francisco, for a long, long time, has gotten to the point that the people who work in these cities most of them can't afford to live there.
Oh, yeah.
That's why you have 2-hour commutes.
I suppose, but then I would counter, and I learned this from you, that then you get more skills. You just get an MBA and you get a better job, and it all works itself out.
That's interesting, too. I'm glad you mentioned that, because in my stack of stuff today, I have an op-ed written by a college president who's beginning to question the value of a college education. His point is, if a family would take 4 years times the tuition cost it takes to send your kid to a good school and put it in an investment account, the kid would end up with more money in that investment account in 20 years than he will with a job he gets from his college degree, on odds, because of the high cost of tuition at a lot of universities. I'm not denigrating education. What you're basically saying, all right, fine, you want this, here's the work you have to do to get it. I totally support that,
Right.
Right. Okay, well, look, I got to run here, but it's been great talking to you, Lenita.
Thank you, Rush. You have a good day.
You too. And we'll be back here in just a second. I still don't understand why, if everybody else's homes get destroyed are going to be paid for by the government, why not the rich? Well, including the big super mansion, yeah. Nobody knew the hill was going to come down. Nobody could have predicted it. Not when it was going to happen. This guy, if somebody would have told him the hill's going to come down in 2005, or 6, he could have sold it before it came down. But he didn't know that. We bailing out all these people on floodplains. We bail out people all over the place. We don't bail out the rich. We say, no, you can't take the money from the poor. We'll be taking the money from the poor if we bailed you out, so forth. It's all about punishing the rich, class envy, and so forth. But, if we're going to have an entitlement culture, why not let everybody participate? Back after this. All right, since the subject of the Laguna Beach landslide has come up, I've got a story here from the L.A. Times about it today, and I've got also that column that I wanted to share with you from the college president asking, is college worth the money? But I'm going to tell you what my first thought was, and it's all a product of conditioning. I live on the beach. I don't live on a hillside, but I live on the beach. And of course, you live on the beach on the Atlantic Ocean. You're in the middle of a potential hurricane path for 6 months of the year, and you can deal with that any number of ways. I'll just give you an example. If you live on the beach where I live, and you want hurricane insurance, you've got two choices: a deductible of $2 million a year or a deductible of $500,000. They don't want to sell it to you. There's the point. Second thing, every year the state moves the coastal construction line further away from the water line, from the beach, from the water line, on the basis that if we keep moving you further away, you'll be safer if such a storm comes. An example, where I live right now, if I wanted to rebuild my house and tear it down, I would be subject to the new coastal construction line. I would have to move probably another 40 feet west, which would reduce the amount of property I own that I can build on. So the state's telling me, you can't build close. Wait a minute, I'm insuring it myself. I'm not going to be coming to you and saying, if my house gets blown away, I want you to rebuild it. We're worried about your safety. I'm going to get out of here if a hurricane comes. I've got this lot. I want to use it X way for build. No, you can't. Now, you can get a variance. You can go to the state. You apply for a variance to build beyond the coastal construction line, and it takes 2 years to get it, but you can do it. And it can be granted. They'll tell you got to build your house up a little higher, which is a neat trick because the town won't let you do that. Because they've got height requirements. Can't have a house any higher than X, according to a town ordinance. But if the state says, well, you want to build beyond the coastal construction line, here's your variance, but you got to raise it 3 feet, you do it and you screw the town and get what you want. But it takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of money to go file these papers and conduct the hearings and so forth. So when I saw those houses go down in Laguna Beach, I knew what the ultimate decision on this is going to be. Some state city, or local government is going to say, you know what? You can't build there anymore. That hillside has to be barren in case there's another slide. We don't want any more property loss. We don't want any more damage. You're not going to be able to build there. Lo and behold, L.A. Times. Headline, to many in Laguna Beach, that mansion was too much. Some blame the home for the slide, but experts doubt that. Still, it's seen as building excess. It sat on an unstable hillside, 6,300 square feet of concrete, stucco, and glass overlooking the ocean, the embodiment of the Californian dream, and to some, an oversized symbol of coastal development run amok. The environmentalists are going to move in there. You don't have to worry about rebuilding these rich people's homes because these sandal-clad, long-haired, maggot-infested, dope-smoking FM types in their SUVs and redwood decks are going to come along and try to get no home allowed to be built on those hillsides in Laguna Beach. That's going to be the end result of this. So you're not going to have to repay for some poor schlub's house to be rebuilt because he's not going to be allowed to. By Bluebird Canyon standards, the low-slung modernist house in Laguna Beach was a palace that dominated the hillside like a miniature Getty's. Come on, 6,300 square feet, I don't care where it is, anywhere, is not a palace. Where I live, it's a library maybe, but it's not a palace. This is my exact point. Snerdley's 6,300 feet is a big house. It's not a palace. A palace, think Versailles. Think a palace is a palace. It's a castle. It's where kings. This is a 6,300 square foot house. It's very big, very nice, but it's not even a mansion. Well, seriously, folks, we're talking about words here. The Democrats are trying to, come up with new ways to win elections based on words. This is not a palace. Words mean things. But the mansion, now it's down to a mansion, next paragraph. But the mansion, so we're going from palace to mansion, built by investors in 2001, never sold. It had never been occupied. Defects riddled the property. And the supersized house insulated the... I've got to take a break here, but you see where I'm headed with this. It's too big. It was too wealthy. Nobody ever wanted it. We're not going to build anything here again. Back after this. Stay with us. All right, I don't have time to get into the detail, but I'll do this in the next hour. But the bottom line of this L.A. Times story is that the reason for the landslide can be laid at the feet of the rich. The rich are responsible for the landslide because of the houses they built and where they built them. And when that's the point, then you know what's going to happen. They're going to ban building, or they're going to try in this location. And you'll see what I mean when I share with you the other details of this L.A. Times story. We'll be right back and resume. Don't go anywhere. Hey, folks, welcome back. The views expressed by the host on this program rivet the nation. The views expressed by the host on this program are the glue that holds the nation together. The views expressed by the host on this program, documented to be almost always right, 98.5% of the time. It's Friday, so let's roll. Let's go. And welcome back. This is the inaugural day of podcasting at rushlimbaugh.com. Starting today, we are making MP3 files of every program available to subscribers at rushlimbaugh.com, free of charge. El Freebo. We're not raising the price is the point. I mean, a subscription isn't free. I don't want to get caught up in semantics here. Subscription's what it is, but we're adding new value here, and there's no price increase to accommodate it. You got this cool software called the Rush 24/7 Media Center. You go to the website, you download that, install it on your Mac or your PC, designate the folder that you want each show's MP3 files to be stored on, and it'll happen automatically. You can manually do it yourself, too, if you want. And this is the first day. We made the software available yesterday. And if you're interested, www.rushlimbaugh.com. Podcasting begins today. Now, let me continue with this LA Times story here on the Laguna Beach landslide. The mansion, built by investors in 2001, never sold, never had been occupied. Defects riddled the property, and the supersized house insulted the sensibilities of some local residents who dubbed it the mausoleum and thought it too big for the geologically sensitive area. The Sinatra house, so named by locals based on false rumors that relatives of Frank Sinatra owned it, is now a wreck. Its once sleek lines a jumble of obtuse angles. It was among the roughly 18 homes destroyed or badly damaged in Wednesday's landslide in Bluebird Canyon. The home's size immediately fueled speculation that the structure somehow led to the slope's failure. So they're blaming one house for this. And the way they blame one house for this so that they can limit the size of other houses or limit houses, period. I guarantee you that's what this is. Geologists, of course, nobody's blaming the rain. Nobody's blaming nature. It's what man did. Man caused that. And not only that, can you imagine the effects on global warming this landslide will cause now? Geologists doubt the theory, by the way, that the house caused the landslide, but the home's demise struck a deeper nerve as well. Some people in Laguna Beach consider it a sign of what's gone wrong with Laguna Beach in recent years. Large-scale construction projects that are slowly eroding the quaint charm of the seaside community. The city is in too much of a hurry to let the real estate industry make money, said Roger Von Butow, a Laguna Beach resident and environmental activist. People say that these are their dream homes, but obviously some of these dream homes are becoming nightmares. Laguna Beach with so there was a bias against this house before the landslide. There was a prejudice against this house before the landslide even happened. Typical class envy is what you got going on here. And so when the landslide happens, the class envy kicks in. Yep, it was the house's fault. And then it was the people who built the house's fault. Laguna Beach, with a population of 24,500, has been struggling with a significant identity crisis. Increasing affluence is forcing out the storybook village atmosphere. Craftsman cottages and simple stucco houses are giving way to palatial homes of blocky, contemporary design and lavish developments, such as the Montage Resort and Spa. And we can't have that. We can't have development. We can't have improvements. We can't have bigger houses. We can't have that. So, bam, this landslide is a godsend to the environmentalists. That's a dirty little secret here. Local environmentalist wackos and other community activists lament that Laguna is not the same place where civic leaders and residents once stood arm in arm to protect open space from large-scale development. I rest my case. Oh, yes, let's go back to the salad days where Woodward and Bernstein were the only journalists in town, Republican presidents being forced out of office, and community activists and civic leaders and residents were arm in arm looking at the sunset from the hills of Laguna Beach while living in veritable shacks, just like they do in the underdeveloped parts of the world. Why don't we, while we're at it, get rid of toilet paper? Let's just go out and grab some leaves from the trees and really be environmentally pure. In recent years, some of that frustration has been directed at 925 Oriole Drive. This is the spec house that came tumbling down. It's been beset by construction problems, unpaid taxes, and creditors seeking millions of dollars. Sounds like your average community problem to me. Construction problems? Tell me where in the world those don't happen. Unpaid taxes? Go look at the unpaid tax rolls at your local county courthouse. And creditors seeking millions of dollars? At any rate, county property records show the house is owned by the 925 Oriole Limited Liability Partnership, an LLP. They list the president as Barbara A. Sinatra of Laguna Niguel, who happens to share a name with the widow of Frank Sinatra. It's not the same woman. Name led to this rumor that was going around. Now, Bluebird Canyon contains many bungalows and smaller ranch-style houses, most from the 50s and 60s. Most are 2,000 to 2,500 square feet. Who needs more? Really, folks, who needs more than 2,500 square feet? In Laguna Beach, where civic leaders and residents can no longer stand arm in arms, gazing out at the sunset. Because 925 Oriole Drive was built atop the mountain. Anyway, I'm just telling you, your argument out in California is not going to be, will the state or somebody else rebuild these homes for the rich? The question is going to be, will these homes be rebuilt by anybody there on that hillside, in that location? And if I were a wagering man, I would bet no. There'd be a big fight on it. Now this business about the value of a college degree. this came up with a previous caller. It's an interesting piece. It's in the Boston Globe today by Daniel Cheever, who himself is a college president. He said the annual trials and tribulations of college acceptance are over for most students and parents. Vast majority of college-bound high school seniors now know where they'll be going to school in the fall. What never seems to end, though, for students and parents is the understandable anxiety over paying for college. The relentless rise in the cost of higher education alarms payers and the public. According to the College Board, over the last 10 years, average tuition and fees rose 51% at public four-year colleges, 36% at private institutions, outpacing the Consumer Price Index. Undergraduate tuition and fees at elite private schools like Harvard grew even faster. For example, Harvard undergraduate tuition and fees, $27,448 this year, up from $17,000 in 1995 and $9,500 in 1985. With room and board added, next year's bill at Harvard will be, in attention, getting $42,000. $42,000 for 1 year. That's as much as the average family income in the United States. Now, most parents are willing to invest or borrow $100,000 to help produce highly employable graduates with proven critical thinking and communication skills and strong professional preparation. Because a college graduate earns nearly $1 million more in pay over a working career than a high school graduate, the same college tuition investment in the stock market would yield more than $2 million over the same period. Now, if that's true, we had better insist the value of higher education be measured in more than cost terms. This leads to the question, what's the value of an education? If your family's going to borrow $100,000, let's say you're 17 or 18 years old, you're a junior or senior in high school, you want to go to college, and your parents are going to go out and borrow $100,000 for you to send you to college. Tell them to do it. But then tell them to put the $100,000 they borrow in an investment account with your name. Call it a private account with your name. And then pursue your dream. If it's college, do it. If it's not, don't. But don't go to college. Don't spend the money on college. Go out and do what you want to do. Fail as often as you want. Basically, live it up. And in 30 years, you'll get your account worth $2 million. I mean, that's this guy's point. His point is, you take this money and invest it. You're going to get probably a much larger return than the jobs you're going to get with a college education these days. If you, of course, you leave it alone. That's the point. Yeah. If you leave it alone, but if you take the $100,000 and spend it on a college education, and then you enter the workforce with your JD, your MB, your BS, BA, whatever. I didn't go to college. I don't know what they call them anymore, but you get one of those, and you get out there and you start toiling away, and you do so. The theory is that you're never going to make as much money. On average, the odds are you won't make as much money as if that same $100,000 were invested, and you couldn't touch it for, say, 30 years. Now, what are you going to do in the meantime? Well, that's your job. You're the kid. You're growing up. Get a gig. Get a job. Go to a community college. Go where it costs $100 a year. Is it not? Is more than that now, Mr. I'm sorry, folks. Back here in just a sec. Some of the finest bumper music known to exist in the free or oppressed worlds. Found here on the Rush Limbaugh program. We are at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Half my brain tied behind my back just to make it fair. Patty, Sault Ste. Marie in Michigan. Welcome to the program.
Hi, Rush. Freedom-toting, Mr. Snurdly-believing Bo Dittos. Rush, nearly every Friday for the past 3 months, I've been trying to get a hold of you to thank you again for the Select Comfort bed that you graciously gifted me with just before Christmas.
You like it?
I love it. But before I give you my findings on the bed, would you allow me a follow-up question with respect to my previous call about advertising?
Yeah, but you got to do more than that, because you started out with saying some things about Snurdly. So we got to establish why you originally called. You called, if I remember right. Mm-hmm. You didn't believe there was really a Snurdly.
Well, that was the second part of my call, but yes, I didn't believe there was a Snurdly.
Okay, you didn't believe there was a Snurdly. Then the first thing you asked me, do I actually believe in the products I advertise, or something like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, if the products you advertise, do you actually use them?
Yes, mm-hmm. Which I, of course, was profoundly insulted by that, because there is an inherent accusation there that I am a fraud.
Well, no, but when you see all these so-called stars or whomever on TV advertising hemorrhoid cream or something, you wonder, are they actually using that product? And actually,
depending on the
don't
star,
care?
they probably are. The question is they using it for hemorrhoids or acne?
That's right. That's right. Good point. But your point being about Bo Snerdley, is that it? Bo is his first name?
Bo Snerdley. Yeah, I just want the audience to know that you were doubting Thomas. You thought that that Snerdley was a fictitious guy that I was making up and that I didn't use the products I endorsed. So I explained to you there was a Snerdley, and I gave you a Select Comfort bed.
Oh, you mean you gave it to me just because you thought I believed that Bo was real?
No. I offered you a Select Comfort bed because I was a nice guy.
Oh, yeah, that I know.
You were asking me if it was really good. If what I say about this stuff, do I really know it? I said, let me prove it to you. I'll send you one.
Yes. Well,
okay. I just want the audience to know that, since that's what you called about a year ago.
Oh, I gotcha. Gotcha.
Okay, so now you can move forward. Now we have you in context.
Okay, thanks for the preface. As to the benefits of someone like yourself, whom I like and admire in many respects, when you promote a product like you have, because I care about you, I can understand why somebody might buy the product. But what about if there's somebody that you don't care about? Like I know that there's some gal on, I think it's The View or something, Stella Jones or something, whom, I just think is horrible. And, of course, the program's horrible, too, but that's aside. Who, if she promotes some sort of a shoe product, and I wouldn't necessarily buy the product one way or the other, but because of you, do you think that, in essence, that your name is gold, as you said, when it comes to advertising? So with all the liberal listeners you have, do you think that your name is then also a detriment to that particular group of potential consumers?
No.
How so?
Well, we know it to be true by virtue. How long has Select Comfort been an advertiser? There's the answer to your question. They've been advertising for over 7 years. If they weren't having success, they wouldn't be here. I don't know that they ask people when they come in, are you a liberal? Yeah. We're not selling to you. I don't think that happens. But we know that it's just not conservatives listening to the program. Tom Daschle gave that away after the elections of 2002, when he said that experts had told them that the reason I'm really dangerous is that I'm changing minds, that there were Democrats that listened, and they just thought I was preaching to the choir all these 14 years at the time. Now they find out I'm actually changing Democrats' mind. I became really, really dangerous. So if I'm changing Democrats' minds about political core values, I don't think it's that much of a task to convince them that the product is really in their best interests. Like the Select Comfort bed.
Well, Rush, I must admit you were right on about the Select Comfort bed. It's been absolutely fabulous, and all the people associated in getting the bed here, because we live in a rural area, especially Lindsay over at Premier Radio Networks and your friends Steve and John over at Select Comfort, they were just terrific, and I'm sleeping better than ever. My only complaint...
What's your sleep number out there, Patty?
45.
45?
Mm-hmm. What about yours?
75.
Oh. Well, I've had it up to 75 on bad days. So, and it's nice to have that adjustment.
The 75 means something to her, folks.
That's right.
See, Select Comfort owners run around talking to each other. What's your sleep number? 45. What's yours? 75. It sends a message. People know. It's funny.
And Rush, it's so bizarre because I'd never seen anything like that before, and it was really interesting how they put it together. And when I was told it was like a sleep mattress, I thought to myself, I remember camping with a kind of a mattress, sort of thing.
No.
And it wasn't even close. I mean, it was just... No, that's just it.
You blew those up like a balloon, and then you took them out there and the hoot owl and the polecats in a tent.
Exactly.
That's not what this is.
No, not at all. But that was when they said it was a sleep, an air mattress. That's what my idea was. So when I saw it, I was just absolutely amazed. Absolutely amazed. It was, and it's so comfortable. I mean, honest to God, I know that I've had trouble sleeping before, and this has really helped. I sleep through the night, which is something that I normally don't do. And I don't know if it's because of the bed or I'm thinking, this is from Rush Limbaugh. I really don't know.
It could be other things, too, but we won't ask.
And my only complaint is that it hasn't cured my husband's snoring.
It hasn't?
No, it hasn't.
Well, I don't think it claims to do that.
No, but I was hoping that it would do that.
No.
Other than that, it's a perfect bed.
Well, I'm glad you like it, and I really appreciate your calling and giving us this testimonial and expressing your thanks. It's great to hear from you, and it's this is sort of like a red letter phone call, going to call like this. So I appreciate it very much, Patty. Chris in San Francisco, welcome to Open Line Friday. Hello.
Hi, Rush. I really missed the audio watermarks you were using a couple months ago. I really missed them, and I wonder if the danger passed that caused you to need to use them.
No, actually, I stopped using the watermarks because I got sick and tired of the emails from people saying they were irritated by it.
Hello?
And it served its purpose. I mean, I wasn't going to do it forever anyway. But I was just trying to protect our intellectual property here. And we had heard that sound bites being played on this program are being played on other programs, which meant theft. And so we were just inserting our little IDs, i.e. the watermarks, so that they would be identifiable to us. And it accomplished the purpose, and it ran its course. I guess if you like it, I've got some sound bites coming up. We'll do one. We'll go back, pretend we're doing back to the archives, and we'll put a couple watermarks in for you. In fact, you know what? We got some George Lakoff. I have some George Lakoff sound bites because he addressed the Take Back America Wacko Democrat conference yesterday. By the way, you know what? He pronounces his name Lakoff. Yes. Yeah, I don't know if it's a result of anything or if that's the way he's always pronounced it. But he was pronouncing his name Lakoff at this thing. And we've been calling him George Lakoff, rhymes with. And so now he's calling himself George Lakoff. But we'll put some watermarks in the Lakoff, whatever sound bites that we've got coming up. And we got an Al Sharpton soundbite coming up as well. So we'll get to all that right after this bottom of the hour EIB Obscene Profit Center timeout. 800-282-2882, the number if you'd like to be on the program in a remaining half hour today. Chugging on into the weekend and the Excellence in Broadcasting Network inaugural day of podcasting here for subscribers at rushlimbaugh.com. The program will be automatically transferred to your computer beginning 2 hours after the program today and every day if you download our free software that easily sets all this up. No additional charge to subscribers at rushlimbaugh.com for this podcasting service. Jason at Vero Beach, Florida. Glad you waited, sir. Welcome to the program.
Yeah, hi, Rush. Public high school teacher dittos from the land of Piper Aircraft and the oldest spring training home in Major League Baseball. Just wanted to comment on the beach renourishment. Here in Indian River County, we've been dealing with this for over a decade, and it's mainly been a county issue, but since the hurricanes, now it's become a state issue. There's an aspect that needs to be looked at, and that's the fact that, at least here in Indian River County, the lion's share of property taxes, for as long as I can remember, have been paid by those people who are building those $1 million homes on the beach. Having learned from you, I don't despise them for what they do. I'm thankful for what they do and the success that they've had and the money that they've brought into my county. That's one aspect, and of course the other is the fact that people like to come here to visit our beaches, and right now we don't have any for them to visit, so there's another economic impact.
Yeah, what he's responding to, folks, and we talked to the Laguna Beach landslide out there, and I reminded people that there are a lot of beaches in Martin County, Jupiter Island, and Vero Beach were destroyed by the two hurricanes that went through here 2 weeks apart last September and October. And the people on Jupiter Island, particularly wealthiest people, the highest property values in the country, are asking the state to rebuild the beaches. And there's, how dare they? Why, it's their beach. Why, they have multiple gazillions of dollars. And his point is, hey, wait, they pay the majority of property taxes, which means they pay the majority of education funding. They pay the majority of city services. It's a state issue. Beaches are a tourism feature of this state. Why shouldn't the state rebuild the beaches? Jason, I'll give you a little answer to this. Well, you're right. I don't have an answer. I actually have an addendum to the story, but your point is exactly right on. But because of class envy in this country, all it took was the residents of Jupiter Island saying, hey, we think the state ought to rebuild the beach. Man, the editorials and the letters to the editor, those people caught hell in the media for daring to suggest it. Now, I mentioned earlier that I live on the beach, and I do. I live on an island that is separated from another island by an inlet. And this inlet leads to the port of Palm Beach, where the gambling casino ship docks and leaves 3 or 4 times a day, and where cargo ships come in and a number of other pleasure craft come in to traverse the intracoastal waterway. Well, this inlet and the port have to be dredged every year. They have to be dredged so that the water is deep enough for these cargo ships and so forth, the cruise ships, to get in there. They normally do the dredging in February. And the dredger is here now. They got a late start because the pumping station was damaged in the hurricanes. But the dredger comes over from New Orleans. That's not what it says on the dredger, the ship. And the ship's there for 6 weeks, the boat, and it dredges the inlet and the port and pumps the sand, which is largely what they're dredging from the sea bottom. They pump the sand on our beach, and then bulldozers come along and move that sand and basically rebuild the beach every year. We are taxed for this. Those of us who live on the beach pay for this. We get a certified letter from the town every year saying this is going to start and your tax rate is X and so forth. And people have come along who live south of me who don't have nearly as large a beach. They have attempted to get those of us where I live to pay even more taxes to truck the sand from the dredging down to their part of the island. So the precedent is set that the homeowner pays, even though the state's doing this. So the city, the county, whoever's doing the dredging, can keep the port and the inlet deep enough for the cargo ships and other pleasure craft, whatever, to get in there. But it's one of the costs of living on the beach. And the assumption is if you can afford to live there, you can afford to pay for this, you can afford to pay for that, you can afford to pay for that. So when these guys at Jupiter Island said, hey, you got to rebuild our beach, there was, oh, yeah, watch this. And I don't know how it was adjudicated or decided if it even was. Now, this year, just to finish the story, this year, the dredger could not do its normal February work because the pumping station down there at the inlet, which is necessary for the operation, was damaged in the hurricane and was not repaired until mid-April. So the dredger has been working the last 5 weeks. I think it's got another week to go. It's out there. It's 24/7. I don't know. The guys on this boat, they only go in to refuel. It's a 24/7 job. But because it's turtle season, the bulldozers are not on the beach. And the sand that's being dumped is not being leveled. And they're just giant piles of sand down near the inlet. So the dredger is attempting to compensate for this. The dredger dredges up its load, comes out, and at various spots along the beach, just offshore, dumps the load, hoping that the current will bring the sand ashore and so forth and level off the beach. But we can't have bulldozers on the beach. And we can't have the operations because it's turtle season and the sea turtles come and lay their eggs. So it's all screwed up until next February, unless another hurricane screws it up even more. So this year we're paying taxes for a bunch of sand hills down there where nobody can use them. Go figure. It's the price you pay, folks. That's the worst thing you can do is complain about it. It's you just have to try to see the humor in it. All right, audio soundbite time, as I promised. Now, this is Sharpton. We're not going to do any watermarks here. This is Al Sharpton this morning on the WB11, Channel 11 TV in New York City. He was with Sukanya Krishnan and John Mueller. And Sukanya Krishnan said, a lot of political shows on the air right now. What'll make your show unique besides your unique personality?
I'm not going to be left-wing or right-wing. I'm coming right down the middle. I think that most people that are on radio now don't understand Americans the way it is. I mean, I bet you they couldn't name one hip-hop artist. And most young people today are in hip-hop of all communities.
All right, I know you can name a hip-hop artist, but Rush Limbaugh has actually said that he would be your mentor. So where does it all fit in, you know? Because I don't know if Rush can hang with the P.
Yeah, I don't know about that. But I think no one has perfected the techniques of radio and really excelled like he has. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was a very almost noble thing for him to say that he would do that. I mean, he and I don't agree on politics. Obviously, he and I have not been on the same page. But for someone who is like the all in all in terms of talk radio, to say, I'll show him how to do it, since nobody's been able to do it, I thought that was a very nice gesture on his part.
See, it's this kind of humility that led me to think that this might be a worthwhile project, folks. It's that kind of humility that led me to... I am happy to help people in any walk of life accomplish anything. And so that's Al Sharpton today on New York City's Channel 11. Now, we go into the George Lakoff audio, and we will use audio watermarks here to identify these as coming from our show. This is on C-SPAN's Washington Journal today, and the host, a caller said, I'd like the public first to understand the word dialectic. Look it up in your dictionary. It first came to my mind when I first heard Rush Limbaugh use accusation and innuendos to persuade the people. That was developed by George Hegel during the Karl Marx reign. Karl Marx reign. And he persuaded, it's a system of persuading people using accusations and innuendos. In other words, they would throw out an accusation, they'd wait for a response, and then use part truths to persuade the people that you're thinking like me or that you agree. Hitler used it to persuade the people to allow the Holocaust. Now, here's a typical liberal equating me with Hitler and the Holocaust, Joseph Goebbels and all that. Now, this person doesn't even understand the definition of dialectic, particularly as it's used by the communists. But here anyway, with audio watermarks, here is George Lakoff's answer.
Okay, well, look, first of all, that's not what Hegel said about dialectic. Dialectic, in general, is the idea of a dialogue. The idea that when two people have a dialogue, you disagree and try to come to some common conclusion and some agreement where they come together. That's not anything that Hitler used or anything of the sort. Don't trust Rush Limbaugh for the meaning of words, especially words used by philosophers. So that's just nonsense.
All right, so a caller gets it totally wrong about dialectic, misassociates it with Hitler, and then he says, don't trust Rush Limbaugh for the meaning of words, especially words used by... I'm the one who coined the phrase, words mean things. So, now this, I have to tell you something. The Democrats are looking at this guy to help them out with words so they can recapture the popular thinking in the country. You would think that if this guy's really concerned about words and how well they're used, he would look at people who are successfully doing what the Democrats want to do. And instead, he's urging them not to listen to people like me. Al Sharpton knows more about who to listen to on various things than George Lakoff. Want to do one more? I don't know what we can add to this. A caller from Baton Rouge, Louisiana says, I've been noticing this for quite some time, especially when Clinton was running for office. They kept moving more and more towards Republican positions instead of explaining why this is bull. I used to hear a lot of phrases like, well, money is the same thing as speech. Well, I don't hear Democrats fighting back, and that's why I supported Howard Dean, because I did hear somebody actually fighting back and saying how much BS there is.
Well, on the issue of money, it's very important. Murdoch has a lot of money. He owns Fox News. He owns a lot of stations all over the country. The owner of Clear Channel has a lot of money.
That is a concern.
And that matters. It matters a great deal. They can get ideas across that I can't because I don't have that much money.
Oh, no wonder these people don't have a prayer. It's just, folks, this just defies even worthy analysis. Back here in just a second. I tell you, grab soundbite number 5. Lakoff does make a point here that could be moderately interesting. Before I get to that, the French news agency has just released a story here, folks. And actually, it's a story from the Fox News radio network. U.S. media needs a modern-day deep throat within the administration of President Bush to reveal how America was misled on Iraq, says George McGovern. We need someone like that who's highly placed to tell us what's really going on. We know we were misled on Iraq, McGovern told Fox News Radio. I wish there were somebody of the deep throat time in this administration who are aware of what's going on, McGovern told Fox Radio. So George McGovern wants a deep throat. I think we've already got him. His name is John Kerry. And John Kerry is going to confront Congress next week when he gets back. There's an interview this week in a Massachusetts newspaper. If you missed it, John Kerry is going to confront Congress on the impeachment for George W. Bush for lying about intelligence and the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq based on the Downing Street memo. So John Kerry, deep throat. He's not in the administration, but he says he's got the goods. A quick story here. This is from Geneva. This is the AP. Urban dwellers are mainly responsible for global warming, but they see little of the effects that they cause because they have their biggest impact in isolated, sparsely populated regions, said the UN Environment Agency today. Klaus Tepfer, head of the UN Environment Program, or UNEP, said cities use vast amounts of resources like water, food, and timber, while also producing a large amount of waste. People living in San Francisco or London may look at these images of deforestation or melting Arctic ice, and they wonder what it has to do with them. Well, their impacts stretch beyond their physical borders, affecting countries, regions, and the planet as a whole. San Francisco, London, urban areas are causing global warming, but it's like the UFOs. You know, UFOs, when they land, they always land in trailer parks. The most intelligent beings in the world, when they fly across the universe to come here, never land at MIT. So we're to believe now that they land in trailer parks, and they take the people in trailer parks aboard the UFO and study them and learn about life on Earth. That's what the stories always are. They never go to MIT and steal some of the true smart intellectuals in our society, or Harvard or any of that. Same thing here. We're now told that all these people living in San Francisco are polluting the planet or cutting down trees, but somehow it only affects the Arctic ice flows or some ravaged area in Africa. Note the cities that Mr. What's his name here, Klaus Tepfer, did not mention. Didn't mention Moscow. Didn't mention Beijing. Didn't mention Addis Ababa. That's Ethiopia, for those of you in Rio Linda. For those of you in Rio Linda, Ethiopia is in Africa. One more George Lakoff bite. C-SPAN's Washington Journal. The host says, you write in your book, Professor Lakoff, your work on politics started first back in the fall of '94.
My job is to study language and its relation to the mind and the brain. And I picked up a copy of the Contract with America, and I asked myself a cognitive science question.
Yeah.
What did the various arguments there have to do with each other? You have people who are against abortion, and the same people are for the flat tax. And the same people, what does the flat tax have to do with abortion? And when I started looking at the family values literature, what I found was it should be obvious, but it's not until you do it.
Correct.
There are two models of the family that are projected by a metaphor we all have. The nation is a family. We have founding fathers. We don't question that. We send our sons and daughters to war. Those models of the family, a strict father family and a nurturing parent family, lie behind and structure conservative and progressive values in America. And it's the details that are important.
Now, folks, this is the man the Democrats have turned to help them communicate to you, communicate better. This guy is the closest thing to being a Professor Irwin Corey without being. You know, Professor Corey, why is 2 + 2 4? Well, to answer that question, one must study the dialectic of the first glacial age. And you get wandering all over everywhere. It has nothing. The answer to the question is he started the study of the Republicans in the Contract with America in 1994, right? It's the details that are important. What's he saying? We need to translate this word, expert. I'll tell you what he's saying. Substance. The substance of the Contract with America made sense. It wasn't word games. It was the substance that made sense. It's the details that matter. Folks, this is too much fun. It just back in a sec. I notice that Klaus Tepfer, head of the UN Environment Program, essentially is blaming the blue states and the urban areas there for global warming, which fine with me. A caller I don't have time to get to. Why do you pronounce screwl? Because I hated it. I felt screwed having to go. Screwl, I hated it. So that's why I say screwl. And with that, my friends, we're out of time. This program will be your first podcast program. It'll be downloaded in a couple hours for those of you that have auto-loaded the auto software. Hope you enjoy it. We'll see you after a great weekend on Monday.